He tells me resentment is the number one offender. It destroys more alcoholics than anything else. From it stem all forms of spiritual disease, for we've been not only mentally and physically ill, we've been spiritually sick. When the spiritual malady is overcome, we straighten out mentally and physically. In dealing with resentments, we set them on paper. Now, you can't do anything about a problem till you see the problem. And before we look at resentments, maybe we need to figure out what is a resentment. Joe?
Okay. So resentment is a number one offender. And it is the predominant things that block us from God is our resentments. And as Charlie said, this key word throughout here is not only writing down our resentment, listing our, we hear that all the time. One of the key words that speaks so much to me in this process is we're going to analyze our resentments. Analyze means to get down to the truth and get them out of our minds and get rid of them.
And we will see the word analyze a little later on.
At the end of the, okay. So resentment is the number one offender, destroys more alcoholics than anything else from it. Still, all forms of spiritual disease, for not been only mentally and physically ill, we have been spiritually sick. When a spiritual malady is overcome, we straighten out mentally and physically. And to look at the real origin of resentments, I think we have to really go to the word itself. And I think it's very self-explanatory, like a lot of our English words are. We can see the origin of them. A R-E on the front of the word, that means again. Usually when we see that on the front of a word, it means again. Like repeat, replay, it means again. And it comes from the word centere, Latin. I always have a lot of fun with that, and I tell people to be careful. Centere, because I speak so Southern Latin. Be careful with it. It sounds a little different. Which means to feel. So resentment means to refeel or to feel again, to feel something over again. Then we understand life, and we talked about self-will. That's why we had to understand these things. We had to learn about human nature, self-will in human life. And one thing about self-will is standard equipment. Everybody's got one. That's what makes it bad. See, sometimes another person has a problem with their security instinct. Maybe it's out of whack and they want to satisfy it. It's too strong. And they will do something to hurt me. And they'll be sick, and they will do something based on self, and it will hurt myself. When it strikes me, it hurts a part of myself, and then I'm hurt. Well, we know that that's going to happen. And that's a wrong on that person's part. And this is always going to happen, and we can't stop other people from getting sick, because we're going to get sick, and other people are going to strike us, and it hurts. That is just simply a wrong. Now, after I am wronged or hurt, usually I'll go into the next room, sit down there, and replay that thing out again. And I just acted all out. I was sitting there doing nothing. I'm always nice when this happens. I don't know why. And they come up and they did this to me, and I react the whole thing out and allow that person to hurt me again. That is a resentment. To re-feel that pain again. Now, the more I play it over, every time I play it over, I ain't too honest. And I like to dramatize it a little bit and add a little something to it. Make them a little worse. Make myself a little more innocent. And each time I play it over,
the pain a little deeper.
The pain gets a little deeper. Now, after a few weeks, I don't know it. But it don't even resemble what really happened. But it's the truth to me, because the truth is as I see it. Now, we human beings do not know the truth. I think we human beings do not know the truth. Only God knows the truth. We operate off of what we call our perception of the truth. So what happens is the more we play it, the worse it gets. And then we make this person worse and make ourselves better. In fact, it gets pretty painful. And you can't, we alcoholics, I kind of associate this like the football games. We watch the football games. And when a little guy goes out there, he gets hit and the guy just knocked the hell out of him. Sometimes they have to carry him off the field. Most time he keeps on playing. But sometimes they have to carry him out. But the old announcer, he don't like it. He's got a resentment machine. He said, "Let's look at that again." And when you look at it the second time, it looks a hell of a lot worse than it does. The more he shows it, the worse it looks. See, the alcoholic gets up every morning. He's got a replay machine. He turns it on in living color. And he goes out and shines it on the world. Now, he don't record nothing good. He like the 6 o'clock news. He just gets the bad stuff. Then he brings it home at night, plays it back to himself, makes himself sick, and blames it on them. And he does it all the time. Now, some days he's got his replay machine on, and he has a bad day. Some day they don't do nothing to him. You know what he does that day? He records what they're thinking. Yeah, he's good at that. He's good at that, yeah. And a resentment is a two-way sword. It's like a boomerang that goes out and comes back, because once you resent a person for doing something to you, then you will finally begin to resent being in a position where that was possible for that to happen. You resent your position in life, which is self-resentment or self-pity, which is one of the most deadly emotional illnesses an individual can have, to feel sorry for himself. We alcoholics seem to be full of that one. We get up every morning and we go out and lay ourselves on the altar. Here I come, mean old world. Y'all just get me. This is the way we feel. We feel like we're being put upon, and this destroys our self-worth. And we seem to like that one. If you want to make an alcoholic mad, you try to feel sorry for him. He'll tell you, "That's my damn job. You can't have that job." Now, when we're resenting another person, and it's a funny thing about selfish, self-centered people who live this way of life and are full of resentments, it seems like, that most selfish, self-centered people take pride that they run their own lives, and nobody will tell them what to do. But still yet we realize if you got resentments in your mind is being dominated by the thing you resent. We are not directing our lives. God cannot direct our lives. Our lives are being directed by other people. So if we're going to carry out this decision, if we want God to direct our lives, we are going to have to take our lives back through getting rid of those resentments. Then we'll be able to carry out the decision we made in step 3. Until that we get rid of those resentments, there's no way God can direct our area of our lives that is controlled by resentments. The other guy uses a little illustration to like a resentment. I love the little book. He talks about the resentments as just like our foot. If we had a shoe that rubs our foot, and every once in a while we get a shoe that's an ill-fitting shoe and it rubs our foot. And as the shoe begins to rub our foot, as nature has a defense of, nature begins to put up a callus on our foot to protect our foot from the shoe. But then the callus becomes a problem. Even when we get another pair of shoes, we still got the callus. And we can't get rid of that. And that's what a resentment is. Or a resentment has to be eradicated. It has to be removed. It's got to be gotten rid of. And this is the process, a beautiful process of listening. Not only just listening, because it don't do a lot of good to write down your resentments, but analyzing them, getting them out of our minds, thereby carrying out the decision we made in step 3. So we're going to begin with this process of analyzing our resentments. In dealing with resentments, we set them on paper. We listed people, institutions, and principles whom we were angry. And it's very important there was a period there. That means stop. Don't go no further. So what we're going to do is take this resentment sheet. We're going to go to the first column. And from top to bottom, we repeat that over and over, from top to bottom, we're going to list the people, the principles, and the institutions that we resent. This is very simple to do. We are taught to read from left to right. That's a good habit for that. I mean, we taught that away. And most people will pick up the inventory and try to do it that way. If we go from left to right, you're going to have to change. You have to write down the name, the cause, which part of self, which character defect. You have to change your mind 4 times on one resentment. The chances are, if you do 2 or 3 resentments, changing your mind 4 times, you're going to be kind of confused and might get lost track. But if we list everything, each person, each institution or principle that we resent, straight down, and don't go across, but straight down, we will have our mind on one thing, and that is very simple for a brand new, confused alcoholic. And that's what we're talking about, somebody brand new that needs to take the inventory. Even they can list the people they resent. This is very simple to do. It's very fresh on our minds. I've never seen an alcoholic that didn't know who he resented. He'd been sitting on a bar talking about it for the last 15 years.
Let's emphasize that this sheet of paper you have is not anything new. We're not trying to bring another inventory into AA. The sheet of paper you have, if you would take that 4th column and fold it under where you can't see it, you're going to be looking at 3 columns, which is page 65 in the blank form. The first column on 65 says I'm resentful at. The second column says the cause. The third column says affects my.
Yeah.
And all we did was take that third column, using the same words that Bill uses in the big book. We have subdivided it under the 3 basic instincts of life. You cannot make me mad unless you threaten one of those basic instincts of life. If you threaten my social instinct, either my self-esteem or my personal relationships, you're going to make me mad. If you threaten my security, either material or emotional, you're going to make me mad. If you threaten my sex life, now we did separate that into 2 columns. One acceptable sex, the other one hidden sex. It seems as though some of we people in AA have 2 sex lives. I can't understand us doing that, but I've heard that some of us do. My acceptable sex life is that I have with my spouse in my home, and society looks at that and said, that's okay. Now if you're threatening them, you're going to upset me. But then some of us have something on the side over there. Maybe we've got a mistress over there. Or if we're a lady, maybe we got a boyfriend over there. Or there might be, there might be anything over there. A pet goat or a monkey or... You take enough of these 5th steps, it's amazing what's over there on that side. And we get this matter in hell if you threaten that the same as we would our acceptable sex life. And then we use the 3 ambitions, and the ambitions are nothing more than our plans for the future. If you threaten what I've already got or threaten what I'm planning on getting, you'll make me mad, whether it's in the social area, security area, or sex area. So all we're doing is using page 65 in the blank form, and Joe just went through the first instruction. We listed people. That's self-explanatory. We listed institutions. That's the police department, the federal government, the church, the post office, all those things we get upset with. And we listed principles. Principles are old guiding spiritual forces, such as the 10 Commandments are a set of principles. One principle that I always hated said what goes up must come down. Another one said what you give out's what you get back. Another one said there are no free rides. You will pay for whatever you receive. All those things they used to spout off at me when I was drinking, and I hated the hell out of them. Now that's a very simple thing to do. Working top to bottom. As Joe says, there's nothing complicated here. You don't have to be educated. If you can't write, you simply feed the names to somebody else and have them write them down for you. I think the simple completion of column 1 will give us some information we've never possessed before. They said, Charlie, you need to list those resentments. I said, I don't have any resentments. I said, what is a resentment? And they said, that's those people and things you're mad at. I said, well, I just got 2 or 3. They said, list them anyhow. Now, Bill listed 4. He probably had more. He just didn't want to take up any more room in the big book. He listed Mr. Brown, Miss Jones, my employer, and my wife. I thought that's about the same number I would have. So I got that sheet of paper like you have with 8 spaces on it. I'm sure you can get all yours on it. But I found out I filled out that whole sheet. And I reached over and got another piece of paper and filled out 8 more. And I got another piece of paper and I filled out 8 more. And I got up to about 97. And I said, man, you matter in hell at everything. I didn't know that. You can only see one resentment at a time in your mind. I don't think we can ever see how much resentment dominates our thinking until we put them all down on a piece of paper. And I was absolutely amazed at how angry I really am. Now, I made a decision to let God direct my thinking. And if resentments are directing it, then God can't. And for the first time in my life, I can see how much resentment and anger really does control my thinking. That's very valuable for me. I'm going to have to know that later on.